The top story tonight, Reliance Power pulls the plug on the 3,950 megawatt ultra mega power project in Jharkhand, blames the state government, says land acquisition issues have not been addressed even after winning the bid over 5 years. Government sources say the Jharkhand government showed strong commitment and called Reliance Power's decision unilateral.
The clock is ticking for the government and this legislative agenda. Finance bill will be tabled on Thursday in Parliament. Appropriations bill will be taken up tomorrow. The GST bill may be taken up for passage next week. No forward movement yet on the land acquisition bill, which could be put off for the next session.
We simply can't see growth going from 7.4% to 8.1%. It sort of appears to be as some sort of fantasy.
It's a fantasy to expect India to grow at 8%, says Saurabh Mukherjee of Ambit Capital, as he paints a bearish picture of the markets. This even as equities snap a 3-day losing streak thanks to the banking stocks.
Bharti Airtel's fourth quarter numbers disappoint as profits and revenue miss estimates. India operations remain steady while Africa continues to drag, but Idea Cellular reports a stellar set of fourth quarter earnings with profits and margins beating estimates.
The world's most valuable company now has $194 billion in cash. Apple's quarterly revenue surged 33% thanks to iPhone sales. China pips the US as the company's largest market.
Walcott recalls some drugs manufactured at its Waluj and Chikaltanta plants. Company says it's taken measures to resolve concerns raised by the US drug regulator. The stock comes under pressure.
Areas to sugarcane farmers continue to mount, now stand at 21,000 crore rupees. The government plans to roll out a package in a few days, also plans to create a buffer stock and take a call on hiking the import duty.
The death toll in Nepal after the earthquake crosses 5,000. The country's prime minister warns the toll could touch 10,000. United Nations says 8 million people affected and over 1 million are children.
On the hour from Delhi to Bengaluru, DLF's troubles are mounting. Home buyers from 3 projects protest in Delhi seeking possession of their homes and fair and equitable treatment from the real estate company.
ये खर्चा दवा का छोड़ो, बीज का खर्चा फिटा नहीं, क्या करेंगे?
बीज का भी खर्चा नहीं निकला?
नहीं निकला। आओ आमदनी निकली नहीं, पैसा देना कहाँ से? बैंक के का तुम्हारा हमारा लिया हुआ पैसा देना कहाँ से?
फसल से पैसे ही नहीं निकले तो बैंक के पैसे कहाँ से देंगे?
कहाँ से देंगे?
तार नहीं लगाई, कुछ नहीं, बिल आया है।
तार नहीं है, बिजली नहीं है,
हाँ।
लेकिन आपको बिल आया है। और ये ट्यूबवेल आपका चल नहीं रहा है?
नहीं,
क्योंकि बिजली नहीं है।
दिल्ली मुंबई कॉरिडोर के लिए 800 करोड़ रुपए देते हैं, औरंगाबाद के सीमांत रीजनों को 800 करोड़ रुपए दे रहे, और हमारी जमीन वो जो धरण के लिए गई है, हमने किसानों ने जो त्याग किया है, हमारे त्याग की तरफ आप नहीं देख रहे।
Unseasonal rains, the lack of irrigation facilities, add to that the threat of a below normal monsoon. Life is not easy if you're a farmer in India. Ground reports from the Marathwada region of Maharashtra on the agrarian crisis, which is only escalating, coming up for you on the show. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Netta.
Why would anyone want to be a farmer, Shireen? You know, forget the government's apathy. You've also got if I may say, it's a really bad forecast from the Met Department for this year.
Absolutely. If there is a subpar monsoon, it's going to get only worse as far as the agri-crisis is concerned. We'll get you more on that in just a bit. But let's move now to the day's trading action. The markets have finally snapped a 3-day losing streak. The bulls taking charge in the second half of the trading session. The Nifty today gained over 70 points. It gets closer to the 8,300 mark. The Sensex rallying over 200 points, led primarily by banking stocks. Mid-caps outperforming the blue chips today, with the index cracking a double century. But Saurabh Mukherjee of Ambit Capital says that industrials, auto and banking are the areas where the biggest pullbacks have occurred as far as the markets are concerned. On the GDP front, he's circumspect, says that 8% growth for the GDP seems to be some sort of a fantasy. Listen in.
we simply can't see growth going from 7.4% to 8.1. It sort of appears to be some sort of fantasy to expect growth to go from 7.4 to 8.1. My reckoning is growth this year, FY16, will be pretty much as same as the growth last year. But the challenge is a lot of companies had assumed that this will be a better year than last year, and a lot of investors had assumed this will be a better year than last year. And that's where I think the challenge will come in. If you as a manufacturer had loaded up on inventory or started building capacity in anticipation of better growth in 16, I think that's where the challenge is going to come through, and that will be a source of incremental credit quality stress.
Well, that's Ambit Saurabh Mukherjee. They're circumspect on the possibility of 8% growth rate, saying that companies have assumed that as far as their earnings are concerned. Now for a quick check on the currency market. The rebound continued for the second straight day today for the rupee, which ended at 63.14 against the dollar. Dollar selling by exporters and forex dealers also led to the appreciation of 33 paise in trade today, despite the dollar strengthening against almost all other currencies in trade today. So that's where we closed on the currency market. Nethara.
And Shireen, India's power crisis is going from bad to worse. Reliance Power has scrapped its plans to build a 3,950 megawatt ultra mega power plant, the Tilaiya power plant in Jharkhand. The company has cited land acquisition troubles as a reason for pulling the plug. Reliance Power says even after 5.5 years and over 25 meetings with the state government, nothing has been done so far. Pragya Bharadwaj now joining us with that story. Pragya, what's going to be the impact of this on the company's plans?
Oh, well, absolutely. You know, this was one of the projects for the company, which was a very prestigious project, given the fact that it was one of the 4 government, bid out UMPPs, which Reliance Power had won way back in 2009. But because of various regulatory hurdles, and as the company statement is clearly outlining the fact that the land acquisition in this process got delayed by almost about 5.5 years, which led to the termination of the project. In fact, the company has gone on to, say that for the captive coal block, no land acquisition process was initiated by the state government in all of this time, despite 25 review meetings and extensive follow-up with the state government, which failed to review any kind of results. Now, the termination of this particular UMPP for the company will reduce this capex pipeline by roughly about 36,000 odd crores. But, as far as the financials of the company go, it will not have that much of an impact, given the fact that a lot of the analysts had not attributed any kind of value in their overall, target price to Reliance, to the Tilaiya project, given the fact that the work, especially with regards to land, etc., had not started. So not much money was deployed towards the capex of this particular plant. But of course, there is another theory on the street that this could be a way for the company to wriggle out of this one of this project, where there was no definite kind of a timeline, given the kind of regulatory hurdles. And now that the government is really heating up its agenda on the awarding of a lot more UMPPs, as the finance minister outlined in the very recent budget as well, it could be possible that the company is, preparing that war chest and that cash chest to start bidding out for those kind of projects where the government is clear that all of the regulatory, concerns, whether it's regards to land or the bidding documents, will be, clear before they go ahead and bid for this. So, that would be positive for Reliance Power. But for now, it definitely clears up a lot of ambiguity which the street had with regards to this very big ticket project that Reliance Power had. Back to you.
All right, Pragya, appreciate you joining us. Meanwhile, sources in the central government are throwing their weight behind the Jharkhand state administration. Government sources say that Reliance Power has unilaterally decided to terminate plans. They say the Jharkhand government had shown a strong commitment to give the land for the Tilaiya UMPP. There was a meeting of the Joint Monitoring Committee, or the JMC. This meeting took place on the 17th of April, and government sources say that a time-bound commitment was given to Reliance Power at that meeting on the 17th of April by the state government of Jharkhand. Sources say that 10 procurer states like Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Haryana, among others, will take necessary action as per the power purchase agreement. Sources go on to say that it's pertinent to mention that Reliance Power had moved the electricity regulator, the CERC, for a higher tariff as well. So this is another UMPP which is in trouble. Remember, we had problems with Orissa and Tamil Nadu at the bidding stage as well, which led the government now to revise or overhaul the entire bidding process as far as UMPPs are concerned. The government has been talking about the plug-and-play model for UMPPs. In the budget, that announcement was made, where all the regulatory clearances will be brought together by the government before bidding out these projects. But to take that story forward, we understand in a bid to tackle the land acquisition issue, which is related to UMPPs, the government could consider giving out UMPP sites where currently plants that are inefficient or very old. When we say very old, we're talking about plants that may be 25 to 30 years old. That land or those sites could perhaps be given for UMPPs. Anshu joins us now with the centre's plans. Anshu, what is the central government thinking?
That's right. Power Ministry sources have told CNBC TV 18 that the government is mulling to set up ultra mega power projects, which is of capacity of 4,000 megawatt at the old plant site where the power plants are inefficient and older than 25 to 30 years. The whole idea is still being discussed because there is an issue with land acquisition and statutory clearances with acquiring these old plant sites which already have clearances. This will ease setting up of ultra mega power projects. Remember, there are only 2 operational ultra mega power projects of Reliance Power, Sasan UMPP in Madhya Pradesh and Tata Power's Mundra UMPP in Gujarat. The whole idea is still at the drawing table with the government, but the whole idea is that they are going to do a feasibility report on which all old power projects can be identified for setting up ultra mega power projects. At a later stage, government may call in for third-party valuation before giving it out for bids for ultra mega power projects. This whole idea has come in because land acquisition is a big problem and the government is yet to get a vote on the act, and this is an innovative idea from the BJP side to push its reforms, and ultra mega power project will be crucial for adding 24/7 power supply at cheaper rate in the coming years. Back to you.
That's the government's game plan to address all the land acquisition problems it's facing when it comes to UMPPs. Thanks, Aranshu, for joining us with those details. Let's take the story forward. What's ailing the UMPPs? Former Power Secretary Anil Razdan believes the government should start issuing land requirement contracts for UMPPs and distinguish between domestic and imported coal-based projects. He's also called for reducing the land requirement size that is needed. Speaking to CNBC TV 18 on the issue of Reliance Power scrapping the Thalaiya plans, Razdan said the Jharkhand government would eventually stand to lose.
If so much time has elapsed, the question remains whether what was promised as a delivered cost of power, given a certain time frame, whether that time frame allows, the passage of the time frame allows the project to deliver power at the same cost. And particularly, I think with the increase of mining costs, etc., some royalties, those are all issues, I think, which would have to be examined legally. But I think, you see, the major loser in all this is going to be the state of Jharkhand, which I think was going to be the prime lifter of the power. Where the plants are inefficient, they ought to be taken off immediately. Or, in any case, an inefficiency tax be imposed on these plants because they're consuming more fuel and probably polluting more than they need to. But I do not think that at many of those sites, which may be located in areas today which are inhabited and populated, towns have expanded, or other facilities have come up, whether we can set up really, say even 2,000 megawatt plants. The other point that I wish to make is, I think, given the logistics of transportation of coal from the mine heads to the power plants, I think the future emphasis should be on locating power plants at pit head.
Well, that's the former Power Secretary talking about what has gone wrong with UMPPs. And one of the ideas that perhaps is being mulled at this point in time is, of course, one is changing the standard bidding documents, and a committee has been set up which will present its recommendations on the 15th of May. And, of course, the other is to look at the size of the UMPPs. Should it really be 4,000 megawatts? Could it be brought down to perhaps 2,000 megawatts? Would that make more sense? Now, ironically, all of this has happened on a day when the Finance Minister met bankers to address the issue of stalled projects. Banking Secretary, along with representatives from the Power Ministry and the RBI, met with 13 public sector bank chiefs and the heads of 2 power finance companies, that's REC and PFC, to review a total of 85 power projects and sort out problems that are leading to power companies defaulting on their loans and creating NPL. So while fuel supply issues have mostly been sorted out, ministry officials say amendments to the Electricity Act are being discussed to enable power companies to sell power directly to consumers. But let's move on now to the other big story. With just 7 working days left in this Parliament session, the fate of many crucial bills hangs in the balance. The finance bill has been postponed by a day to the 30th of April to accommodate a discussion on the supplementary demand for grants. The appropriations bill, which was meant to be taken up today, will now be taken up tomorrow, and the constitutional amendment bill to facilitate the GST may now be pushed to next week. But there seems to be no forward movement on the land acquisition bill, which could be put off for the next session. Amidst this packed legislative agenda, the Rajya Sabha saw some major commotion over the Prime Minister's statement in Germany and Canada. The Prime Minister said he's changing the image of India from Scam India to Skill India. That caused a ruckus in Parliament. Joining us now to talk about the current session of Parliament and the Congress's strategy and position is the senior Congress leader Veerappa Moily, also the former oil minister. Also joining us is the former railway minister and TMC leader Dinesh Trivedi. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Mr. Moily, let me start by asking you, sir, the Goods and Services Tax Constitutional Amendment Bill is perhaps going to be taken up by Parliament next week. The Congress party so far has been maintaining that the GST bill be sent back to a standing committee. But why, sir? This has been a matter that has been under discussion and deliberation from the time that Shri Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister. Your government oversaw the empowered panel discuss and debate the issues of the GST bill. Why are you now asking for the bill to be sent back to the standing committee?
You know, it is the earlier bill which we had moved, and that had gone to the standing committee. The standing committee, after the due deliberation, they sent back that report. And that is how we moved on. But because of the lapse of the period of the last session, you know, they had to bring it to new one. But while bringing new one, you know, they have in fact effected number of changes. I am not speaking about other minor changes, but there are few fundamental changes which they have effected, which will not make the act or the bill to take off at all. The number one is with regard to the you know, the introduction of the clause that, you know, everything will have to now it will be, if there is a dispute, it will be decided by voting, and right. As against the consensus which was contemplated in our original bill. But the question is that, you know, the voting, you know, in a federal system like this, when there is a coalition government here and also various parties ruling the various states, and also the conflict between the manufacturing states and also the non-manufacturing.
But sir, the finance minister of Kerala, Mr. K.M. Mani, who is also heading the empowered panel on the goods and services tax, speaking to us on this channel, clarified that all the issues between producing states and consuming states have now been resolved, that there is consensus between producing states and consuming states on the constitutional amendment bill, which has now been tabled in Parliament. Are your differences so dire that you will not allow this bill, or you will not support the bill if the government were to move it?
There are few things. Constitutional amendment will bring out the frame of the bill to come. The goods and services bill will have to be, you know, proposed later, both by the centre separately and also the respective states. This is the roadmap. You know, it is not as if that once the constitutional amendment is passed, everything is over. And
no, of course, it has to be taken to legislative assemblies as well. It has to go to the legislative assemblies, sir. We're aware of that.
No.
But Mr. Moily, a straightforward question. You know, a straightforward question, sir. This is going to be taken up, we are given to understand, in Parliament next week now, because the finance bill will come up on the 30th, and perhaps that's forced the government to push the GST bill to next week. Will the Congress support the bill? Will it not support the bill?
No, you can't answer this question in a straight line, because, you know, we are insisting that it has to go to the standing committee. You know, this government, particularly since 1 year, they don't want any bill to go to any standing committee. They would like to straight away pass it. And this is not the method in which the parliamentary democracy should function. Then what is it? They can as well wind up the standing committees. This is what we are pleading, and other day also we press for it, and next time also we are going to press for it. But at the same time, one thing is clear, that, you know, the constitutional amendment which we brought about, and also the Goods and Services Act bill which we wanted to bring in, it was more progressive one. We are insisting for this government to reintroduce again. Otherwise, you know, this kind of an act or a bill or a process will get stuck up. They will have to make a lot of preparation on the...
Sure. So you're saying that the Congress party will not change its position on the GST bill. You will continue to demand that the bill be sent to a standing committee.
This is no. It is very easy for you people to say that. But we are telling you that government has to negotiate it. But any parliamentary
So what will it take, sir?
The negotiation is important.
What will it take for the government to convince you to support
I am very sorry. I am very sorry that you have not understood what I have said. We are for GST bill. This is our bill. We are for GST. This is one of the best tax reforms ever we can have in this country. We are for it. But this government will have to make it practical. And tomorrow it has to be implemented. It should not get into the difficulties and complexities by which the entire implementation will be held over.
All right, fair point.
Satisfaction
Fine,
that
let me bring in.
We are supporting it. We are supporting the entire proposition.
I got that point, sir. I got that point. Let me bring in Mr. Dinesh Trivedi, the former railway minister and member of the TMC, into this conversation. Mr. Trivedi, on most other issues, the TMC does not support the government, but on the issue of the GST, will you support this government? That has been the public position so far. Will you continue to support this government on the GST bill?
I think a lot would depend on the approach of the government, and it would depend how they take the opposition with them. Mainly the Congress. As far as TMC is concerned, I think on principle we have said that depending on the discussion we could be saying yes to their GST, but I think we need to get into the debate in the parliament on the GST.
May I ask you, Mr. Trivedi, what do you mean by it will depend on the way that the government pursues its discussion? What will make you, for instance, change your mind on supporting the bill?
No, I think at the moment we have publicly mentioned that we are with the bill, but in case if there are certain changes when they bring amendments and all, if at all, which is not in the federal structure or which is not suitable to our state, in that situation. Otherwise, as it is, what we have said.
Okay, so as of now, you're saying you will support the government on the GST bill. Let me quickly ask you about the land bill, because there the opposition from the TMC has been absolutely clear, just like the Congress party. We don't know whether the land bill will be taken up for consideration and passage, or the government may develop cold feet on that. But if the government is willing to make any further amendments with the land bill, will you be willing to offer your support to the government on the land bill?
I think the BJP and the government has lost the plot on the land bill, and there is just no way the land bill really can ever be passed, which the reality has finally dawned on the government, because it is not only the opposition. Please understand, there is a huge section of the BJP who come from the rural India, and the mood of the people. We talk about farmers, but very little we do about the farmers. I mean, farmers at the end of the day has a right over their land, and I don't think so the might of the state can ever work. So considering those things, I don't think so the land bill is acceptable to the country at large. Who are we to tell the farmers that, oh, you don't do farming, you come and work in the factory? We are not in a totalitarian state. We are democracy, and the farmer has as much right. So to answer your question, I don't think so the land bill would come in this shape. I don't think so.
All right, you're saying the land bill in its current avatar, as far as you're concerned, is history. Mr. Moily, the Congress has maintained its opposition. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is on a padyatra of sorts at this point in time, agitating against the government's version of the land bill. Do you foresee, sir, you're a veteran parliamentarian, do you foresee that the government may still consider taking up this bill for passage and consideration in this session?
How can, we are all opposing it. I think practically entire opposition is opposing it. And apart from that, even within the rank of the BJP and within the rank of the RSS and many of these, their supporters, they are also opposing it. And in fact, already the government has acquired the image of an anti-farmer and anti-poor, that is the kind of a thing which they are facing. and and they are not prepared to discuss. Not once, twice they have brought about the ordinance. Then while doing it, they could have discussed with the opposition. They could have come around, but there is no. As on today, there is no tendency that they will come around. Since they brought about the two ordinances. It is very clear that they are quite adamant on their stand. This kind of autocratic mood will not take them along, because in a parliamentary democracy, opposition is also important. They will have to take along with them, but they don't. But they have no toleration. There is no moderation. So, and we are very on land bill. The Congress party, and we are very firm that we are opposing it because it's totally anti-farmer.
All right, so you will continue to oppose the land bill. My final question to you, Mr. Moily, before I let you go, the black money bill, that is a money bill. So in that sense, like the finance bill, it doesn't really require the assent of the Rajya Sabha. Do you foresee the black money bill going through, sir, because the government has the numbers in the Lok Sabha?
The black money is not as simple as they put it as a money bill. Then, just to circumvent the Rajya Sabha and its approval, they can't, they just make it so convenient to ensure that, it is converted into a money bill. It's not that. It's highly technical, and, it cannot be entirely money bill. It has the mixture of it, and in fact, it has to be passed by the Rajya Sabha also. And, both houses will have to pass that. Just because, they don't have a majority, they would like to see that, the Rajya Sabha will not have a voice in passing the bill. And they can't do that.
So your interpretation of the black money bill differs from what the government has been putting out, but you're adamant that you will not support the government as far as the land bill is concerned, and even on the GST bill, you continue to maintain your position. Mr. Moily, Mr. Trivedi, it's always a pleasure.
GST is concerned, we are supporting the GST proposal, that tax reform, most important tax reform. Congress is always for it. We have patronized it, we have brought it, but the government should also find out that what are the fallacies and controversies and complexities, and they will have to come around.
You've given us a headline, Mr. Moily. There seems to be a softening.
Pardon?
You've given us a headline. There seems to be a softening of position as far as the Congress party is concerned. It looks like the constitutional amendment bill for the goods and services tax will perhaps go through in this session of Parliament. But always a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Moily and Mr. Trivedi. Thank you very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18.
Right, moving on, thousands of hectares of sweet lime and cotton crop in the Marathwada region is drying up because of lack of water. Irrigation statistics from Marathwada throws up a scary picture. Only 7 to 8% is irrigated, and the rest depends on monsoon for irrigation and cultivation. CNBC TV 18's Archana Shukla travels to Aurangabad and adjoining villages to get to the core of the matter.
Irrigation statistics for Maharashtra are dismal. Only about 16 to 17% land in Maharashtra is irrigated. For Marathwada, it's even poor. Only about 7 to 8% is irrigated, and the rest depends on rain to be cultivated and irrigated. Reason why farmers who cultivate cotton, bajra, jowar, sweet lime, pomegranate, they all have had very bad cultivation and production in the last 3 to 4 years because of lack of rainfall.
2011 से बारिश हुई नहीं, इतनी चाहिए उतनी हुई नहीं, और 2011 से बारिश नहीं होने से अभी तक 2014 अब 15 लग गया, अभी तक जो फसल है अच्छी तरह से आई नहीं, और जो उत्पन्न होने वाला था कपास का वो हुआ नहीं, जो खेती में खर्चा करा वो भी निकला नहीं.
We are standing here in Paithan village in Aurangabad district at a dam site where in 2009 a dam, for the construction of a dam, the project was sanctioned for 220 crore rupees. Since then, about 100 crore rupees have been spent in building some part of this dam, which will source water from the largest dam of Maharashtra and of Marathwada region, which is the Jaikwad Dam. However, fallacy of this situation is that the dam construction was started from the other end. Not from where the water would be sourced, but from the end where the water would be used.
पानी आने के लिए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 2 महीना लगेगा, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट अभी करोड़ों रुपए खर्चा कर रहा है टैंकर के वास्ते, क्योंकि उनको पैसा मिलता है इसीलिए. लेकिन अगर कभी डैम में पानी आ गया तो सब खेती के लिए भी पानी मिल जाएगा और पीने का भी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएंगे।
आपने जब बात की है शासन वालों से जाकर, तो आपको क्या उसमें आपका सुनने को मिला है?
अभी तो देखो शासन के तरफ से कुछ पॉजिटिव बात मिली नहीं है। कुछ शासन ने पॉजिटिव इसके बारे में थिंकिंग सोच नहीं की है। हमारी मांग ऐसी है कि 70 करोड़ रुपए नहीं दिए जाएंगे। अब दिल्ली मुंबई कॉरिडोर के लिए 800 करोड़ रुपए देते हैं, औरंगाबाद के समांतर रीजनों को 800 करोड़ रुपए दे रहे, और हमारी जमीन वो जो धरण के लिए गई है, हमने किसानों ने जो त्याग किया है, हमारे त्याग की तरफ आप नहीं देख रहे।
Marathwada in Maharashtra has only 7 to 8% of irrigated land. Maharashtra overall statistics as far as irrigation is concerned is only 15 to 16%. And failed projects like these add to the grief and distress of these farmers even more. In Paitan, with camera person Bharat Kori and Mahendran, this is Archana Shukla.
It's just one of the stories of our special series on what's ailing rural India. With that, we'll wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks for watching. Good night.